Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Welcome to the last class on digital signal processing. And today we are going to continue our topic of discrete Fourier transform. Hopefully we would complete that in the last lecture. We started off our discussion on discrete Fourier transform. We said that it is a transform that that is discrete in both in the time domain and as well as in the frequency domain. So if you look at these expressions, these are the sorry about that. If you look at the discrete time Fourier transform, so these expressions are for discrete time Fourier transform in which your frequency domain picture is continuous in frequency, but it is periodic with a period of 2 pi. And because it is periodic, we said that if we can take samples of this, um, so we said that for a finite length sequence, it can be your discrete time Fourier transform can be completely represented by these coefficients x of 0 all the way to x of n minus 1. So why not we sample the discrete time frequency and sample it into n points. So if we have n points in the discrete time and we take n samples, capital N samples of the discrete time frequency, we should be able to recover our signal back x of k. So this is your discrete Fourier transform. X of k is summation n equals to 0 to n minus 1 x of n e to the power minus j 2 pi k over n times n. So you can see in this graph that this omega is moving in this counterclockwise direction, and you have taken capital N samples starting from n equals to 0, and the last sample would be n minus 1 times 2 pi by n. So that is your discrete, that was the definition of the discrete Fourier transform. Then we said that we can write down, we can define this wk, where wk is nothing but the nth root of unity. So we can define wn, sorry, as e to the power minus j 2 pi by n, and then we can represent these equations of x of k and x of n in terms of wk. So you have these expressions x of k in terms of wk, x of n in terms of wk, and we did a formal proof for the inverse discrete Fourier transform equation. Then we did certain examples as well. And towards the very end, we looked at this matrix representation of finding out the discrete Fourier transform. So we'll continue with that in today's lecture. The discrete Fourier transform can be represented in terms of this WKN, WTK, WN, sorry, WN, I'm keep on saying WK, WN and WN conjugate. So because WN is defined with a minus sign here, you can define the Fourier matrix Fn, which has different powers of Wn. So the first row would be Wn to the power 0, so your k would be 0. So this k would take values from 0 to n minus 1. And the entries, so you do what? You take to the power k, and the entries of this Fourier matrix would be the powers of Wn to the power k. The Wn, let me define Wn to the power n like this. And then you would take its powers, and these powers would come in this kind of a Fourier matrix. So your Fourier matrix comprise of this this thing. For example, Fn for an n point DFT, you would have this Fourier matrix comprising of all ones in the first row, all ones in the first column, and Wn to the power 1, Wn to the power 2, Wn to the power n minus 1 for the first column. And in this direction, you would again change k. So now you would have powers of Wn in this direction, powers of Wn squared in this direction, powers of Wn minus 1 in this direction. And this way you can formulate this Fourier matrix Fn. For example, if n equals to 4, your Wn would be what? E to the power j 2 pi by 4, right? and that would be equal to e to the power j pi by 2. There is a negative sign in Wn. It would be e to the power minus j pi by 2, and that would be nothing but minus j. We know that if you go clockwise in the direction in the complex plane by pi by 2 radians, you would reach at minus j. So your Wn would be minus j, and then you would have different powers of Wn in this matrix, and that would give you a Fourier matrix. So we will do an example of that. We will do an example of computing the Fourier transform using this Fourier matrix today, inshallah. Right. Okay. If you want to compute the inverse Fourier transform, you can make use of this Fourier matrix. Note that if you want to compute x of n, so that would be 1 over n fn inverse times capital X, where fn inverse would be the inverse Fourier transform matrix, right? And you can note that there is a very slight difference when you compute the Fourier transform in an inverse Fourier transform, and that is in the powers of e to the power j 2 pi over n times k. So if you replace this minus sign with a positive sign, right? In other words, if you take conjugate of Wn, then you would have this equation, this Fourier matrix would change to an inverse Fourier transform matrix. And the good thing is that this is nothing but its conjugate transpose. So you can already notice that this is a symmetric matrix, and if you take the transform of this matrix, it won't change anything. So if you take conjugate transpose, that would give you conjugates of these quantities. So if I take Hermitian of this, you would have conjugate of this at every point. And this becomes what? This becomes a inverse Fourier transform matrix. Because now you would have a positive sign of e to the power j 2 pi over kn, and that would give you an inverse Fourier transform. So it is very easy. So you can see essentially the Fourier transform and inverse Fourier transform algorithms are pretty much the same, and that's why their complexity is pretty much the same. And I hope that you have watched the videos that I referred, in which that tells you how you can go from finding the inverse Fourier transform in an efficient manner, where if you multiply with this matrix, you need n square complex multiplication. And if you factorize this in an intelligent manner, you can reduce the number of multiplication to n by 2 log n. So that is fast Fourier transform. We'll not go there. We'll not study the fast Fourier transform algorithm in this course, but that is for, I thought that would be nice that if you, at this stage, you see what is fast Fourier transform. So today we are going to study what are the properties of discrete Fourier transform. And the first property of the discrete Fourier transform is, of course, linearity. And it says that if x3 of n is a times x1 of n plus b times x2 of n, then x3 of k would be a times x1 of k plus b times x2 of k, where x1 of k and x2 of k are the discrete Fourier transforms of x1 of n and x2 of n respectively. Right? I hope that this is clear. This is linearity. We'll not do the proof. The second property is interesting because this is shifting. Interesting. Why? Because it is different in discrete Fourier transform compared to any other transform you have studied. So shifting is different. Okay? So in any other transform, you can directly shift a signal x by m units. But in discrete Fourier transform, you have confined yourself to a range between 0 and n minus 1. So this shifting must also be confined to the range of 0 to n minus 1. In order to do that, you do what is called modulo n. So if you shift the signal modulo n, that would give you an output which is Wn to the power km x of k. Similarly, if you shift the signal in the frequency domain, of course, this would again be a modulo m shift. It would be Wn to the power minus mn x of n. So it is very similar. You multiply with the complex exponential, but the shifting is modulo m, right? Or what is called the circular shift. Right? This shift is also called circular shift. Modulo n shift is also called circular shift. So what is a circular shift? So let's see. So suppose you have so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. You have 5 samples from 0 to 4. And now you want to circular shift it by 1 sample. And that shift, you want a circular shift. So there are 2 methods. One is, of course, that you shift everything towards right and you bring this on this point. To see that more clearly, typically what is done is that you form you form a periodic version of that. You form a periodic version of that and then shift it by 1 sample. So now if you shift this periodic version by 1 sample, right, you would get what? This guy would come here and you would confine yourself to this range. So now what would happen? You would have this guy would come here at 0. 0th guy would go to 1. 1 would go to 2. 2 would go to 3. 3 would go to 4. And 4, remember this 4, now if you see, it has already come here in this place. So if you take a periodic version of that and shift it, it is as if you are moving the last m samples of your signal and moving them up front. I hope it is clear, the concept of circular shift. It's not very difficult.
Yes, sir, it's clear.
So this is called modulo n or circular shift. Having talked about circular shift, now let's talk about circular convolution. Circular convolution, of course, when you shift it, if you the circular convolution is equivalent to a linear convolution but when you are dealing with discrete Fourier transform and inverse discrete Fourier transform. So if you multiply 2 signals in the frequency domain, it would result in a convolution in the time domain, but that convolution would be a circular convolution, and that's why it is important, right? So let me give you upfront the property. So if you convolve a signal, so sometimes you represent it like a star and a circle on it. Sometimes you represent, because it is an n-point circular convolution, you write n and draw a circle on it. So circular convolution of x of n times h of n would give you multiplication in the frequency domain. Right? So DFT. So that is the property why we study circular convolution. And in fact, you would soon find out that the circular convolution is something that is used to compute the linear convolution, because finding out this x of k and h of k, now we know that it's very efficient. So we have very efficient algorithm for finding out h of k and h of k, x of k and h of k. So if you find out these x of k and h of k, and then you convert the signal back, you should get a convolved version of that. But that would be a circularly convolved version of that. If you somehow can find out the linear convolution with the help of circular convolution, then you can just compute that circular convolution in the frequency domain, that is, you first take the fast Fourier transform of both x of n and h of n, and then you convert it back to the time domain using inverse Fourier transform. Again, that's an efficient algorithm. Then the convolution can be done in a very quick manner. So we'll come to that as in today's lecture. So let me define this. What is this circular convolution? So x of n circular convolution with h of n is defined as summation k equals 0 to n minus 1 x of k h of n minus k, but that should be modulo n, right? This is as simple as it. So now if you want to compute this circular convolution, so let me do an example. So one way of computing the circular convolution is through what is called a circulant matrix. And for that, you see that you expand this expression, and you can see that it's nothing but a system of linear equations. And a system of linear equations can be represented in a matrix form, right? So for example, let me call this y of n, right? So what would be y of 0 according to this expression? So y of 0 would be x of 0 times h of 0 plus x of 1 times h of n is 0, right? So you need to represent 0 here. 0 minus 0 minus 1 would be minus 1, right? But minus, you need to remain confined within 0 and n minus 1. So minus 1 would be changed to n minus 1 plus x of 2 times h of n minus 2 plus dot 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 plus x of n minus 1. So remember, n is 0, n minus 1 would give you h of 1, right? So this is the first you expanded this for n is equals to 0. Let me expand it for n is equal to 1 as well. So it would be x of 0 times h of 1 plus x of 1 times h of 0 plus x of 2 times h of n minus 1 plus dot 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 plus x of n minus 1 times h of 2. Everybody sees how I've written these expressions के अंदर कोई issue तो नहीं है?
No, sir, it's clear.
So now, if you have no issues with that, we can write down directly what is the circulant matrix. So y0 all the way to yn minus 1 would be equal to, so the first row would be given here, h0, hn minus 1, hn minus 2, all the way to h1. The second row would start with h1, and you can see that it would go all the way to h minus 1. And if you have these two column, first row and first column filled, the rest is very easy to fill because it would be a circulant matrix. So you see h1 has come here, right? Everything else would be shifted ahead, h0, hn minus 1, and what would be the last entry? What would be the last entry?
H2 हो जाएगा.
H2, very good, very good. ठीक है, इसी तरीके से आपका जो लास्ट रो है इसमें it would be h of n minus 1, h of n minus 2, and all the way to h naught. And then you would have x naught, x1, all the way to xn minus 1. And this way, so this is called a circulant matrix, H tilde. And circulant matrices are very special matrices. You would, if you know this, this should be your concept, that these circulant matrices are special matrices. The special quality of one is they are symmetric. You take the transpose, it would not make any difference. The second is the second quality is that their eigenvectors, the eigenvectors of a circulant matrix comprise of, they are of the form of, lo and behold, they would be of the form of 1 Wn to the power k, Wn to the power 2k, Wn to the power n minus 1k whole transpose. So if you do the eigenvalue decomposition of a circulant matrix, the eigenvectors that you're going to get would be of this form, right? And you have just seen that these were the columns of the Fourier matrix. ठीक है, तो columns of the Fourier matrix से मिलते जुलते इसके eigenvectors आएंगे if you do the eigenvalue decomposition. But that is something that is off topic. But these are important concepts. So these are important matrices. The circulant matrix is an important matrix. So this is one way you can compute circular convolution. Another way of finding out the circular convolution is that you find, for example, if you want to find out the circular convolution of x of n and h of n, you do what? You first find out what is the discrete Fourier transform of x of n. That gives you x of k. Similarly, you find out discrete Fourier transform of h of n. That gives you h of k. And then you multiply these two and take the inverse discrete Fourier transform of x of k times h of k. That gives you y of n, right? So this is a procedure used a lot in the frequency domain analysis. It is especially more useful in terms of discrete Fourier transform, because these guys can be computed very efficiently using fast Fourier transform. So that is the additional benefit. There is another method which is, so there is a graphical method. You can learn it on your own. I think you should learn it, finding the circular convolution using the graphical method. It's not very difficult. It follows the definition. It is very similar. I would here explain another method. So we would do the circular convolution of one example using this method. That is, we will take the Fourier transform and take the inverse Fourier transform of the product of the two Fourier transforms. And another method, which is a tricky method, which is not tricky, it's a trick method to compute the circular convolution. And I'm going to give you that. So suppose you have, suppose x of n is given as cosine of pi n by 2, and it takes n equals to 0, 1, 2, and 3. And your h of n is 2 to the power n. Again, n takes value 0, 1, 2, and 3. And now we want to convolve them circularly. So let's represent x as in terms of vector. So cosine of, when you plug in n equals to 0, you would get 1. N equals to 1, you would get 0. N equals to 2, you get minus 1. 3, you would get 0, right? And then you define your vector h. It would be 2 to the power 0 would be 1, 2 to the power 1 would be 2, 4, and 8. So if you want to compute circular convolution, remember in one of the classes, earlier classes, I said that you can compute the convolution by just taking the polynomial multiplication. And this is again a polynomial multiplication method, but you have to be careful about it. So you start with this, you do a polynomial multiplication. So you multiply 8 with 0, 8 with minus 1, 8 with 0, 8 with 1. And in polynomial multiplication, you leave this space. Remember, so follow through the method with me and then I will tell you. So this would be, आपने क्या किया, h of n को x of n से मल्टीप्लाई कर दिया, ठीक है. So ये वाला जो पॉइंट है, this point is आपने h of this 0 is h3 x3, this 3, right? So this index is not, so the index you will get is not exactly the index that we should have for the circular convolution, but we would have a method to correct that, right? So just hold on, go through the method with me, and then we'll see how to correct, how to find the 0th location of the output. So you leave it blank, you multiply 4 with 0, 4 with -1 is -4, 4 with 0 is 0, 4 with 1 is 4, but it comes here, but instead of coming here, you would write it here, right? And the polynomial multiplication. Then you would leave 2 blanks. You multiply 2 with 0. 2 with -1 is -2. 2 with 0 should come here, but it'll come here. And 2 with 1 would come here. And then you multiply 1. 1 with 0, you leave 3 blanks now. 1 with 0 is 0. 1 with -1 would come here, -1. 1 with -1 would be -1. Sorry, 1, 0. 1 with -1 would be -1. 1 with 0 would be 0. And finally, 1 with 0 is 0 here. And then you add.
So last में 1 से 1 को multiply.
Sorry, 1 से 1 को multiply करना है. Finally, this 1 is 1. Actually, this is the most important point as well. So last में you will multiplying 1 with 1. When you are multiplying 1 with 1, you are multiplying h of 0 with x of 0. So this 1 is the location of x0, h0. And so this, the location of x0 and h0 should give you the location of the 0th index. Okay, so this is important. Then you add them. So 8 minus 2 would be 6. -4 plus 1 would be -3. -8 plus 2 would be -6. And 4 minus 1 would be 3. And this would be your 0th index, right? So your y of n would be equal to -3, -6, 3, and 6. So is it clear, this method of polynomial multiplication?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Ali, the 0th index thing is clear?
Yes, sir.
Very good. So this is an easy way. If you have finite number of things up to 8, 9, 10, this should be easy to handle. It's not very difficult. So now let's do the circular convolution by a second method, in which we would multiply, we will take the Fourier transform of both x and h, we would multiply those, and then we'll take the inverse Fourier transform. So we need to define what is F4 here. F4 would be 1, 1, 1, and 1. 1, 1, and 1. What was your W4? W4 is e to the power -j 2 pi by 4. That was equal to -j. ऐसे ही था ना? So it is -j. -j whole squared would be what?
1.
Think again. -j whole
So
squared
-1. So -1.
would be equal to j squared would be equal to -1. So ये इस चीज का आपने खास तौर पे ख्याल रखना है. -j to the power 3 would be just multiplication of j squared times j. So it would be plus j. And then here you would have minus j squared would be minus 1. Minus j to the power 3 would be the product of the two here, j. Now, here you would have, so this is 0, 1, 2, j squared. It is j to the power, minus j to the power 4. What is minus j to the power 4?
1.
That would be 1. And then the product of the two would be minus 1. And then j to the power, minus j to the power 3 here, minus j to the power 6 here, minus j to the power 6 would be minus 1. And then the product of the two would be minus j. So this is your F4. So you need to be careful about squaring a complex number. Then you can find out what is x of k. That is nothing but, if you allow me, I can just if you allow me, I can just write x of k here and multiply with my x 1, 0, minus 1, 0. And that would give me x of k equals to you can do it, verify, but it would be 0, 2, 0, 2. Similarly, you would find h of k would be equal to the same matrix. And if you allow me, if I write h here, and if I write 1, 2, 4, 8 here, then your h of k would be equal to 15 minus 3 plus 6j. You can see how we are entering the complex numbers territory, and still we would get a real number at the end, because the convolution should give us a real number, right? So here we have complex numbers. Then we multiply these two, x of k times h of k. This is element by element multiplication, remember, would be equal to 0, minus 6 plus 12j, 0, and 6 minus 12j. And now you need to find out, so let me call it y of k. Y of n would be the inverse Fourier transform. So y of n would be f4 Hermitian times y. ऐसे ही है ना? And that would be, again you have to build it. जहां पर j है उसको आपका माइनस j हो जाएगा Hermitian. ठीक है, तो माइनस j would change to j, minus 1 minus j, minus 1 1 minus 1, that would remain the same, minus j minus 1 plus j. That would be your F4 Hermitian. And then you would multiply this with 0 minus 6 plus 12j, 0 minus 6 minus 12j. And then that turns out to be, your y of n turns out to be, पहला वाला देख लेते हैं क्योंकि we need to confirm it that कि हमारा आंसर वही आ रहा है जो पहले आया था. ठीक है, तो minus 6 plus 12j और minus 6 minus 12j ऐड होंगे, minus 6 और minus 6 minus 12 आ जाएंगे. एक मैंने गलती की है and nobody pointed out. क्या गलती है? आंसर तो सही नहीं आ रहा, गलती तो हुई है. क्या आ रहा था आंसर y का? What was your y? Minus 3. Here we have minus 12. हमें यहाँ पे 1 over n से डिवाइड करना था, राइट? हमें 1 over 4 से डिवाइड करना है, फोर्स इनवर्स फोरियर ट्रांसफॉर्म में. ऐसे ही है ना?
Yes, sir.
And then you would have minus 24, 12 and 24. that would be 3 minus 6, 3 and 6. So this is again another way of computing the circular convolution. It is an efficient way of computing the circular convolution. Why? Because fast Fourier transform, for example, for long numbers, right? Fast Fourier transform can be computed very efficiently in the hardware. Okay. Okay. Then we continue our topic. अभी properties पे वापस आ जाते हैं. I think it's related here. So can we do linear convolution using a circular convolution? क्योंकि अगर हम कर सकते हैं तो हम अगेन ये फास्ट फोरियर ट्रांसफॉर्म की जो एफिशिएंसी है उसको यूटिलाइज कर सकते हैं. And the answer is yes. We can do it. How? अगर आपने अगेन x of n को h of n से कन्वॉल्व करना है, लीनियरली कन्वॉल्व करना है इस बारी, तो आपके पास y of n आएगा. What would be the length of y of n? What would be the length? इसकी लेंथ 4 है, इसकी लेंथ भी 4 है. So 4 plus 4 minus 1, length 7 हो जाएगी.
7.
Right? So you would have a sequence of length 7. So what you do is आप x of n में 0 पे ऐड कर लेते हैं and make it a length 7 sequence. ठीक है, ये मैंने एक जगह बनाया हुआ है यहाँ पर. ठीक है, what you do is आप 1 0 minus 1 0 was your x of n, 1 2 4 8 was your h of n, then you 0 pad it so that the length is 7, and then you do what? You do again the same kind of आपने circularly convolve करना है आप दोनों को. Circularly convolution for this 7 numbers can easily be handled by polynomial method. So we start there. We first multiply 0 with this row. 0 multiplied by 0 should be all zeros. The second, you leave here 0. 0 multiplied by 0 should be 0, but here would again be 0. You leave 2 spaces, then you multiply with 0. 0 multiplied with the entire row should be 0. Then you leave 3 spaces. Now you multiply with 8. So you would have 0, 0, 0, 0, and then minus 8. Minus 8 क्या होगा मुझे बताते जाएं. 0 and 8.
1 again.
Then you leave 4 spaces. Multiply with 4, 4 zeros, and then
Minus 4 0.
minus 4 0 and 4, right?
Yes, sir.
Then you leave 5 spaces. You multiply with 2, minus 2, 0 and 2. ऐसे ही है?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I need extra columns here. To be on the safe side. So you multiply with 2 last time, right? And then you leave 6 spaces and you multiply with 1, right? So you 0, 0, 0, 0, and it would be minus 1, 0 and 1. And then you add them together. What is the location of H0, X0? This guy, ठीक है, ये हमें पता है H0, H0 की location है. That would help us identify what is your 0th index. When you add them together, you would have 0, 1. I haven't brought my glasses, so मुझे बता दीजिएगा कि मैं गलती ना कर रहा हूँ. 2, 4 minus 1 is 3. and 8 minus 2 is 6, and minus 4 minus 8. And this is your zeroth index. Hence your y of n would be equal to 1, 2, 3, 6, minus 4, minus 8, and 0. So this just proves that you can compute a linear convolution using circular convolution, and that helps us to utilize the efficiency of the fast Fourier transform. Okay. Very good. So let's go back to the properties of discrete Fourier transform. Right. So we have studied two properties. One is the linearity. Other is that circular convolution in the time domain result in multiplication in the frequency domain. The third property is duality. And the duality is similar to the discrete time Fourier series duality. X of n, if x of n has a discrete Fourier transform of x of k, then capital X of n would have a discrete Fourier transform of n times x of minus k modulo n. Where note that minus k modulo n is equal to n minus k for k between 1 and n minus 1, and minus k modulo n is equal to k modulo n for k is equal to 0. Yani zeroth part would not change. If you reverse it, you have to confine yourself. Remember, जो time reversal है उसको भी आप जो method था ना periodic बनाने वाला उसके through देख सकते हैं. So for example, हम suppose कर देते हैं हमारे पास ये तीन samples हैं, ठीक है, 0, 1 and 2, ठीक है. अब आपने इसको टाइम रिवर्स करना है मॉड्यूलो n, लेकिन ठीक है. अब आप इसका पीरियोडिक वर्जन देख लें. अगर इसका पीरियोडिक वर्जन होगा, अब आप जब इसको रिवर्स करेंगे तो जीरो वाली चीज तो जीरो पे ही रहेगी, ठीक है.
यस सर.
और जो वन वाली चीज है, वन वाली चीज आ जाएगी इधर, और -2 पे ये टर्म आ जाएगी. और दिस इज पीरियोडिक विद पीरियड 2, सो दिस वुड कम हियर, दिस वुड कम हियर, ठीक है. सो दिस यू कैन सी दिस इज n minus k for values of n equals to 1 and 2. For n equals to 0, it is the same. ठीक है. I hope this time reversal modulo n is clear to you guys. ठीक है. जीरो वाली चीज वैसे ही रहेगी, बाकी सारी चीजें शिफ्ट हो जाएंगी, रिवर्स हो जाएंगे, n minus k पे चली जाएगी. Is it clear जी? यहां पर क्या हुआ है, ये वाला चीज इधर आई है और ये वाली चीज इधर आई है. यानी जो -2 पे था वो -2 + 2 +3 पे आ गया है, क्योंकि n = 3 है ना, 3 सैंपल्स हैं. यस, -2 + 3 पे आ गए. और जो -1 पे है वो -1 + 3 पे आ गया, यानी 2 पे आ गया. इज इट क्लियर?
यस सर.
Yes, sir.
So this is duality. The next is what is called the symmetry property. If x of n has a discrete Fourier transform of x of k, then x conjugate of n would have a discrete Fourier transform of x conjugate of -k modulo n. जब भी आपने शिफ्ट करनी है, इट मस्ट बी मॉड्यूलो. और सिमिलरली x conjugate of k अगर इधर लेते हैं तो it would be in the inverse discrete Fourier transform would be x small x conjugate of -n modulo n. to see the symmetry property, let's define x tilde of n to be x of n modulo n. This is a periodic version of x of n. Right, so x tilde of n is a periodic version of x of n. For example, n small n modulo 4 would be 0, 1, 2, 3. 4 की जगह n क्या था 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 4 की जगह you would have 0, 1, 2, 3. 8 की जगह again you would have 0, 1, 2, 3. ठीक है, सो मॉड्यूलो n समझ आ गया आपका? जो ये इंडिपेंडेंट वेरिएबल है n, अगर ये मॉड्यूलो n है तो if n is 4, so x of 4 would be equal to x of 0, x of 5 would be equal to x of 1 and so on. ठीक है, सो नाउ अगर आप क्या करते हैं, आपने x tilde of n डिफाइन कर लिया, ठीक है, which is a periodic version of x of n, then you compute the conjugate symmetric part of x tilde of n, and that is what we define in the initial part, 1/2 x tilde of n plus x tilde conjugate of minus n. This is an even function, लेकिन अगर complex number हो तो आपने conjugate के साथ multiply करना होता है. It is called the conjugate symmetric part of x tilde of n, and then you can have conjugate anti-symmetric part of x tilde of n, which would be 1/2 times x tilde of n minus x tilde conjugate of minus n. So these things we studied in the initial part of the course, ठीक है, जहाँ पे हमने conjugate symmetric and conjugate anti-symmetric part देखे थे. These are similar to even and odd function. The only difference is कि यहाँ पर conjugate आ गया क्योंकि x can be complex. ठीक है, then we define XEP, periodic version of this conjugate symmetric part. Okay, periodic version of the conjugate. Remember, this is the periodic version, but that is, it would keep on having values. It would keep on having samples for all values of n, but you need to confine yourself to between 0 and n minus 1. So your XP, which is nothing but modulo n version of x tilde e1 of n. So it would be what? That would be 1/2 times x of n modulo n plus x conjugate of minus n modulo n. ठीक है, where n varies between 0 and n minus 1. ठीक है, बेसिकली आपने क्या किया है, जो x e tilde of n है इसको आपने कन्फाइन कर दिया है बिटवीन 0 and n minus 1. Similarly, x odd p is the modulo n version of the conjugate anti-symmetric part. So it would be 1/2 times x of n modulo n minus x conjugate of minus n modulo n. ठीक है, I hope it's not very complicated. It just looks like a little involved. लेकिन ये इसके सिर्फ confined version है between 0 and n minus 1. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Sorry about that. So now you must note that XEP of 0, what should be XEP of 0? 1/2 times x of 0 plus x conjugate of 0. That is nothing but the real part of x of 0. ठीक है, so XEP of n, we can write it as, so this is for n equals to 0. For the rest, between 1 and n minus 1, you can write it XP of n to be equal to 1/2 times x of n plus x conjugate of n minus n, because we know that this guy is x conjugate of n minus 1 for n between 1 and n minus 1. Right? Similarly, you can write x OP of n, and that would be equal to j times imaginary part of x of 0 for n equals to 0. And when n would be between 1 and n minus 1, x OP of n would be 1/2 times x of n minus x conjugate of n minus n. So with that, you should be, we are good to go. Now I will give you the conjugate symmetric properties, which says that x EP of n would have a discrete Fourier transform of real part of x of k. Remember, आपका जो conjugate symmetric था, उसका जो, it's very similar to the properties of the discrete time Fourier transform. आपका जो even part था या आपका conjugate symmetric part था, उसका जो Fourier transform है, that is real part of x of k. Similarly, x odd p, x OP of n would have a discrete Fourier transform of, any guess?
Sir, the imaginary part of xk.
Of x.
Exactly, right? J times imaginary part of xk. If we take real part of x of n, the discrete Fourier transform of the real part of x of n would be x EP of k. And j times imaginary part of x of n would have a discrete Fourier transform of x OP of k. Right? There are 4 other properties written in one of the Fourier transform tables of the conjugate symmetry. ठीक है, वो आपने वहां से देखनी है. ठीक है, and then we can talk about the Parseval's relation. Which says that summation n equals 0 to n minus 1, x of n mod squared would be equal to 1 over n summation k equals 0 to n minus 1, x of k mod squared. That means the energy in the time domain would be equal to the energy in the frequency domain. Is that clear, Ji?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
And on that note, I'm done with my notes. So that's what I wanted to cover in this class. Any questions, any discussion points from today's lecture? आपका आज क्विज है, तो अभी ले लें या आप उसी टाइम पे ले लें शाम में?
सर शाम में बेहतर है.
Okay, so उसी टाइम पे we'll have a quiz at 8 p.m. हम इंशाल्लाह उसको ओपन कर देंगे. Today's quiz is relatively shorter पिछले quizzes की निस्बत, और निस्बतन थोड़ा सा आसान है. I think if अगर आपने फिल्टर वाला चैप्टर किया हुआ है तैयार. I'm stopping the recording. I'm open to questions.